welcome to this very special episode of the Schbang in it. And normally I'm the host of the show, but this time I'm the host and the guest. And I've got another guest, so we're going to play it a little bit by the ears. So I've got Kajol Bheda with me. And Kajol is the founder of Scribbld Social. She's been in this line of work for the last 3 years. She's been running her agency for the last 3 years, and she's been on stage a total of 7 times. So that's the number of fantastic awards that she's won. And she wrote to me on Instagram asking me a bunch of questions. We decided to meet, and then I said, actually I keep hearing these questions from a lot of people. So then Kajol said, okay, fine, I'll put it on my Instagram, see if there's anybody else who has questions. Or rather, we spoke saying, okay, let's just put it on Instagram, see if there's more questions. I was typically related to the starting up journey.
Yeah.
Once you started up and reach 0 to 1, how to go 1 to 10. So those kind of questions. So that's what we're going to cover today. So Kajol has very nicely put everything together from a lot of different people, I think.
Yes, from actually 160 people nearly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but a lot of them had very similar questions. So I just kind of collated them into one.
So it's all typically agency founders or people who are starting agencies.
And a lot of people that are aspiring to start agencies as well.
Got it.
A lot of people that are currently working at agencies and are looking to start agencies.
Okay. So super. So that's about, I think that's good. Like if 160 people have put it, it's a good representation of all the kind of questions that can come.
Very true.
So hopefully if I get some questions, at least for the next 1.5, 2 years, I can send this saying this is, why don't you just look at this? It has probably everything you need.
Very true.
Or at least everything that I know. I mean, it may not be everything that you need, but everything that I know.
I think we've got it covered, right? We've got aspirational founders asking questions. We've got people that are maybe 1 or 2 years into running their agencies asking questions. And we have someone that's, again, looked up to you for years, me. And about 3 years in, I feel like there are so many questions that I have. It feels like at every point, while it's been great, the journey has been great, but you keep questioning yourself. You want to know if you're doing it right or wrong. You need a little bit of validation. Yeah. And I don't think there's a better person for me to get it from than you.
Okay, thank you. That's so nice of you. Thank you.
So I think that's the purpose of today. It's going to serve as validation for a lot of people.
Okay, super. Good. So what's the first thing that people wanted to know?
So the first question is how you deal with hate as an entrepreneur about founders and bosses on social media. Because I keep seeing a lot of questions about I understand I've had a shitty boss in the past as well.
Yeah.
But I think there's just this kind of talk around how all bosses are hateful. They, hacks to kind of get extra leaves. And it's it feels like a downer sometimes. Especially when you're struggling to always give your team the best that you can.
I'll say a few things unfiltered because there might be people who are not running agencies also watching this. And so I'll break it down into 2 parts. One is, as an agency, what you're basically doing is if you fundamentally break it down, you're trading people's skills.
Right.
Okay, so when you're trading people's skills, that means somebody's got a skill to design, somebody's got a skill to write, animate, 3D, code, whatever. It's a skill that you're trading at a certain price. You're creating an environment for them to work there, vis-a-vis work by themselves or work somewhere else, because it will help them utilize their skills better.
Agreed.
So as an agency founder, it's very important to know fundamentally that the important thing that you're trading is human skill. And then you're value adding to companies through human skill. So when somebody is downing you, I would say, and I'm a little hard on myself usually, so I would say that if you see consistent hate or downing, you actually have to question yourself that am I doing a good enough job when I'm trading from that skill, or when I'm trading that skill, I intend to profit from that skill effectively. So when the skill that you're looking to trade, and I'm sorry if I'm making it very
Black and white.
or like, boiling it down to the fundamentals. But that is effectively what it is. I'm trading a skill. And when I'm trading that particular skill, if that skill is not happy being aligned with me, then that's a thing I have to question myself. So the way to deal with it, I think, is that you actually have to question yourself first.
Right.
And not question saying, oh, who am I? I'm an asshole, this, that, none of that stuff. But like, just investigate, be a little curious about why.
Right.
So then once you're a little curious about why and you know that, okay, this is the policy that they are not, the person is complaining about.
Right.
Or it may not be a policy, it may even be a way you may have spoken to somebody.
Huh.
Because again, you're dealing with people, like you may have rubbed somebody off the wrong way and then that person is reacting. So I think it's either you really investigate on the policy that is leading to it, or you investigate on what you may have said to that person which is leading to it.
Got it.
Yeah, sometimes it just might be like you need to skill up yourself, because maybe there's also, like honestly, sometimes fundamentally it's a function of lack of respect also. I just don't want to work with you because I don't respect you enough, because you're not good enough. Sometimes it's that. So then you go inside and you like remove the better part of you. That's why you've taken up this challenge, honestly.
Very true.
So I feel like that's like I don't want to disregard. Yes, it is painful. Yes, it is triggering. Yes, it is, yes, it is mentally challenging. But if you're an agency founder and watching this, then you've decided to put yourself at the top of your food chain because you think you're better. So you get better at dealing with it. And there are ways to deal with it, the whole process of running people is really a process of bettering yourself every single day. And you have to do that.
That's very well said. You should actually quote that in like a book or something you write someday.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
So I have had my priorities set straight since day one. For me, it always goes my team, then my clients, and then me as a whole, or my agency as a whole, being a proprietor. What would you say about that? Would you do it any differently, or do you do it any differently?
I would say, like, we have the principles put on these walls. So our first principle is clients' business wins, we win. So in that statement is that I fundamentally believe that my team will win if my clients' businesses win. So I think we have to really be able to, create, it's almost like the team and the client's success is woven together.
Yeah.
Because most people work, at least with us, I believe, because they really get to do better work to skill themselves better. And I know that then there is the, hey, the timelines are bad. Hey, the brief is not clear. Hey, the insight is just not there. You're not giving me the time. And I think, we can go into how to strengthen that. I think there are ways to strengthen that. There are ways to tackle clients. I'm not saying that all clients are great. There are certain people on the client side who are very unreasonable and not very clear necessarily. But I think that's, again, the moment we put it as they are like this and we are like this, at the end of the day, we have to recognize that we are being hired to be able to deliver something that they can't deliver. That's why they come here.
Right.
Because, let's break down the agency business, right? If you see the agency business, what is the agency business? As I said at the start, we are trading human skills. Now, a large company can buy those same human skills themselves. Yeah. They choose to put it to a house because they fundamentally believe that humans in a home put under a roof with culture, values, skills, and excellence of the way they do it, I am okay to give you that same money, you make your margin on it and run your business. So because of the excellence is why they're coming to us.
Yeah.
So fundamentally we need to realize that that's why we are existing. If we are existing and we are not able to get a clear brief, then we need to question how can we get a better brief? How can we really,
there's always a way to.
There's always a way to. So, and also like the thing is this, right? Like, I mean, if you just you break it down, I will always make more effort to a person who makes more effort towards me.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying wasted, aimless effort. Now it's about where do I direct that effort. So, if I'm not getting it right, then do I put the effort to go to the store and see where the product is placed, see how people are buying the product, speak to the shopkeeper, speak to consumers and say, actually I found this. I think this is the direction. What do you think? Without going to artworks. I think a lot of the angst, especially in agencies, is like, I made 3 artworks and then it's going into a 4th round. That's where the angst is. The angst is not in, like, then they say, oh, brief change, brief change, brief change. That's a regular thing I hear across the board. So I think that is inefficient use of time.
Yeah.
So it's the same time more gainfully used can actually help you upskill, can help you understand that market better, that product better, help you serve the client better. So I think for me, it's, long-winded answer, but the thing is, like, I think it's clients' business wins, we win is the best way to look at it. Yeah,
right?
It's a circular reference. Yeah. And then like each agency owner will want like that, oh, for me, my people come first, my clients come second. I think for me, it's the same. I think that their success is very closely linked.
So to be honest, the reason I think so differently is because when I started out with one intern. So the idea, like obviously now we have a team of over 40 people and we have some great clients on board. But when we started out, I think it was very important to me that I kept my team happy so that team could keep my clients happier. Yeah. And I was always someone that really believed in, and I teach part-time. I teach at quite a few places. So
which places?
At IID.
Okay.
I taught at Whistling Woods briefly. I might teach at we might have to cut this part out, but I may teach at IIM very soon.
Okay.
So because I teach, it just became really, let's say, the training bit became very easy for me. And I wanted to. I inherently wanted to train every single person that came on board. So even with us, I think one of the things that's most important to me is, let's say, even if a fresher joins us or we have someone that's maybe 10, 15 years into the field that joins us, there's a lot of give and take. So number one, if you've come with a lot of skills, you try, sit the team down and explain to them what it is that you know about the industry and how you think it functions. Because again, going back to the client briefs, and you said the angst lies in repeated changes. I understand very well that it does not lie in the creativity of a person. But also, I think if you're not bettering yourself with time, brief on brief, like let's say if client A in 2020, for example, gave you about 10 changes, in 2021, you should aim that with client A, with repeated business, or with client B, you better yourself at asking the right questions to, not get as many changes and maybe brush it down to 5 changes.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. It's true.
Yeah.
So at what point did you start saying no as an entrepreneur, if you ever did? I mean, no to, let's say, business, no to, putting a band-aid solution on things and not thinking of a long-term solution.
At what point?
And if you did?
See, this is a very, it's you always say no to things that are not within what serves you or what is going to better what you do. And I don't think there's an easy answer to that, because today also I'll put band-aid solutions on things. You judge by the situation how important that is.
True. How about with business, right? Getting new business and client acquisition, essentially.
So, sorry, but I say no to clients, obviously, where I know that, I know that we can't serve them well. So when I know there's a client that we can't serve well, I say no. It could be on a basis of the price that we charge, to the value that they may receive. So typically I will know what kind of a client would suit well to us. So then basis that I say no.
Fair enough. And obviously even with that, I think there's, at what point were you able to say no? Because I know you started with, you started in this office and you started with a very, I would say, competent team. So
Yeah.
was there a point where you did initially, where you were like, no, we're not saying no to business right now. Come
See,
what
I
may.
started this business in 2008. Okay, Schbang is in 2014, but we had a very successful run with Foxymoron where I effectively established that company as one of the. I mean, I was the lead co-founder there, and I ran that company to basically gather very good clients in phase one. So it took me a long time to get my first set of clients.
Right.
And my first client was Maybelline New York. But actually, that was my first big client. But my first client was a client called Viola Jules, Zahn Dentistry, VS International. You had Radio Bhavan. These are names you wouldn't have heard of. So these were like, I'm forgetting one more name. There was a video that we had done. There was a designer, Anand John. His T-shirts were printed. So that's when the company was doing T-shirt printing, brochure printing, all of that stuff. I was also, Percept had a division called Percept Origin. So I was taking outsourced work from Percept Origin on a brand, ICICI Lombard, and then there was a brand Force India F1. So I effectively built the initial social media of Force India F1, but again, not as Foxymoron. I built it as Percept, and then as Law and Kenneth, Saatchi and Saatchi. Before it wasn't Saatchi and Saatchi, it was just Law and Kenneth. So I didn't say no for a long time. And initially, there was another Sprint Eyewear. His office is in Malad. So that was one of the things we used to do. I used to take the train from either VT or Churchgate because my office was next to Sterling. It was close to my college. So to go there, take the train till a last stop, which I think I should go. So that time it was Malad, or even maybe later. But that one I remember distinctly was Sprint was Malad, and I had called up few people saying, give me an appointment. So Malad, then next you take another appointment till you come back, so you have to keep trying. And then somewhere what happens, 1.5, 2 years, you are working hard. People see that you're working hard. People want to also give you a chance actually, if you're working hard and if the team is working hard. So then they're like, okay, let's give him a shot. And then that's when I got my first big shot with Maybelline New York. And when I got my first big shot with Maybelline New York, I grabbed it with both hands. So it was the first Facebook app effectively by a brand in India. So I don't even know if your time you would remember Facebook apps, but you used to do things from a Facebook app onto a wall. So it was like the first, you had the landing page and then you had to activate the app through the landing page. So it was the first one built for a brand out of India. And it was, it was like the Maybelline Color Sensational lipstick, which they still have. Maybelline Color Sensational was just launching that time. So we had a campaign which I pitched to them was around, spread kisses all over the internet. So you go to the app, you select your lip shade and you spread a kiss to somebody with like a nice message. So that blew up, that app. And my media performance was also very good. It was 6 times better than the incumbent agency. So I got my 3-month contract extended into a 1-year contract. So I was in another league then, automatically. Because I'm in Maybelline, I'm in another league. Immediately after that, I got a call from Garnier, which is part of the same group, saying, we would love for you to try and launch Garnier Men. So Garnier Men is a brand that I launched. And then came Garnier Skin Naturals. And then, came a project with L'Oreal Paris. And then in the meantime, I was trying to chase other brand managers saying, just hear me out. Don't give me business, just hear me out. So Garnier Men was internationally launched by an Indian guy called Arjun Bose, who's now heading international marketing for General Mills across the world. So Arjun and I met recently, coincidentally, and then we were recounting how he was in Paris and launching Garnier Men, and I was trying to launch it here with the India team. There's a guy called Kaushik Subramaniam also who was working on it, and Anshuman Vanchu, who now heads Garnier, was Kaushik's boss on Garnier Men. So it was, I mean, some of these relationships, then they keep building up, and then you do work, and then there's a joy to doing work together. Or there's, so the other guy I was chasing at the time was a guy called Amit Singh he used to run a brand called Cadbury Bonville, which is the dark chocolate, fine dark chocolate. So that time the branding campaign by Ogilvy was "Have you earned it?" Because it was fine dark chocolate, you have to earn it. So we had a bunch of interesting activities that we did there, and Amit till very recently was globally heading the expansion of Costa's beverages business across the world. I don't know what he's up to now, I should ask him. But so then that got me a chance with Bonville. And then Bonville got another guy, Sudhanshu, who's now, I think, one of the heads in the US at Mondelez. And he also got Silk with him. So Sudhanshu and I worked on Silk, and Amit went on to Cadbury Bonvita, where we did a fantastic campaign to bring BQC back on television. So the Bonvita quiz contest, which we used to do in school, was not on air. So we kind of did this whole movement to bring BQC back. So then it just, it went on and on. And then I had Femina, where we made the Made by You issue, which was awarded globally, which was the first crowdsourced issue of a magazine in the world. And then we had FC UK. And so there was a lot of brands that then started to come together. And a lot of these other brands which were there continued to build. So then my reputation became that I would work with large brands. But it wasn't always that way. So I was working a lot with small brands, doing brochures, doing website. Yeah, there's a great company still existing now, Grow Trees, which is run by Pradeep Shah and Karan Shah. Pradeep Shah is the founder of CRISIL, and Karan Shah was a school friend of mine. But I had to basically design that website from scratch because I didn't have a designer at that time who was competent to do websites. So I don't have Photoshop skills, but I hand designed that website. So it's not like I said no at the start. I said yes to everything. I tried my best at everything. And I didn't say no for 5, 6, 7 years because I was like, okay,
Fair.
That's cool. And then now I just say no because I just won't be able to give my best there. So, now the tuning is a bit better. So then when it came to Schbang also, yes, I had to bring in brands. And my first brand, I always say this, I had two very conservative companies giving me a stamp of trust. You had a Sindhi company and a Parsi company. They are both known to be conservative, Finolex Industries and Godrej. And when you have large conservative companies giving you a stamp of trust, then it's like, okay, in a conservative market also people are trusting you, means you're okay. So it's a bit like that.
Fair. I actually didn't realize for a very long time how easy it is to just reach out to people. Because, Scribbled is a pandemic baby. When I came back after completing my master's in London, the plan was I'm going to start my agency at 30. I've got a few good years to go. I'm going to just keep working at agencies till I figure it out. I applied to you and you rejected me. But you didn't reject me, actually. I didn't hear back.
Loss. Yeah, you didn't hear back.
Yeah, I didn't hear back. So I was just kind of waiting. And to be fair, COVID had just hit at the time also. And I think we were in Feb 2020, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have heard back from us because
For
we were busy making sure that we don't have anybody from our team not leaving.
And that's completely fair. That's exactly what I would have done in this situation as well. So complete respect there. But the idea was that, in fact, I used to keep telling my friends in the UK that I used to keep going like, I'm going to go back to India, apply to a company like Schbang and work there. I very recently figured out how easy it is to just reach out to people. I think one of those reasons was also because when I reached out to you, you were receptive. You were like, yeah, you know what, let's do this. It's so casual. And the first time I met you, I was like, you know what, I'm a little intimidated. And you were like, nah, don't worry about it. Like, it's all cool. Following that, the next, I think, month following that was just me reaching out to absolutely every single brand that I wanted to work with. And I landed up getting in touch with so many people. And I never realized how easy it would be to just, actually reach out and be like, hey, I've done some good work here. And I'd like to continue doing so. Because fortunately, every single client that we've got till date has been through word of mouth. And has, to be honest, been because, we've managed to build and sustain great relationships with our current clients. So my first big client was not big, but okay, I shouldn't be saying this, but my first semi-big client was Suburban Diagnostics when I we were like 4 months in, and they decided to, kind of trust us. And it's been 2.5 years, and we're still working with them. After which I went like, oh, okay, if a company that exists in like so many cities in India is willing to trust us, maybe we should aim for a little bit higher than this. We kept aiming. And today, when I look back, like very recently, we were just sitting, and it was, a nice nostalgic evening where some of my old team members and I were sitting, and we were just like, okay, we've done a lot. We need to probably sit and write all of this down. We need to sit and document this. But with all of this, I just realized that I think one thing that we were very, very poor at, and I think most agencies, because they get so caught up in the execution of things, that they don't necessarily think that they let's say they do give client acquisition importance, but they don't give the number of channels that client acquisition has as much importance. So how do you, let's say, distinguish between active channels, inactive channels, what works for you, what doesn't? At what stage do you think what channel works for agencies?
See, I'm not very good at this, honestly. So I'm not the right person to answer this question, because I'm not so good at outbound marketing. And I think we have been fortunate and lucky that I can tell you what we focused on. We focused on brand building, where we focused on building our brand, and we focused on ensuring that the work that we do is visible and seen, applied into awards, given to journalists. We've only focused on that. And then there's, touchwood, like a good inbound pipe. But where I'm really struggling right now is in a market like the UK, where I'm not able to, I've written to a lot of people. Nobody's responded. So maybe it's an India thing. Maybe it's the time that we are in India. So I don't know if there's a one size fits all. And right now, honestly, if I say I'm struggling with getting leads in the UK, so I don't know. But for I think, you already answered it, where you said that reach out to as many people. People are receptive. The only thing that I would add to this is that in a large company, if you're reaching out, try to reach out to an ambitious younger person. And I've said this many times, just try to reach out to an ambitious younger person in the team who has a point to prove. So somebody like you who would have decided to work in a company and wants to really make a mark, find that person. And there are ways to find that person, in terms of how active they are, what they write about, all of that. And then try to partner with them to say that, look, let's do this one project together, which will really make a mark. Kind of like this Maybelline example that I gave of the person I worked with was a girl called Ritika Rajpal. So she was the youngest there, and then because she was the youngest there, she was the most junior person. She was very fiercely ambitious, and so we got along well because she had my back, I had her back, and then obviously she had my back also, but she was also making sure look, I'm trusting you. You can't screw me over by not delivering. So she made sure that she made it very clear to me that she's doing me a favor. Not favor, but she's, I can't screw up. But at the same time, she was also hey, I'm just going to give you a little bit of this input, better suggestions to get it right, because she also wanted to make a mark. And then coincidentally, when I came in and I did my work well, she also benefited as a result. So it was a win-win from that perspective.
Employee contracts in India today are somewhere in a gray area.
Yeah.
How would you react to a team member of yours or an ex-team member of yours working with, let's say, one of your old clients, or let's say the client that they worked on with you?
Yeah, so this is a very specific one. In all the client contracts, and we negotiate it, that we put a clause in the client contract that the team that is working with you as contracted by the agency cannot work on your side. So you have a 2-year, it's called a non-solicitation clause. So you put a non-solicitation clause in the contract and that the team that is working for you cannot work on your side.
But again, the reason I say they're in a gray area is because most agency founders just come and tell me, yeah, there's nothing you're really going to do about it.
You can do the contract with the client.
Again, let's say you have that clause. Even I'm not only talking about
client. See, one is law and one is spirit. Okay, if you have a large company or any small company, and I think, that's also the fundamental, what I believe is like we have a second principle, our word is our bond. When you've given your word, you've written, you've signed it, you know that this is what you're doing. Then if you're breaking it, fine, there's nothing you can do. But then honestly, you have to answer to your own conscience.
Yeah, very true.
So, and then clients who do that, they get a bad name in the market. Nobody wants to work with them. I would not work with a client who has a reputation for taking people. And honestly, I also think the reputed companies just don't do that. Yeah. It's just not done. They just don't do that.
I was in fact speaking to Alina Gandhi the other day from Social Media Dissect, and she was telling me about how, we were just in general talking about, employee references and just about how certain clients can be. And we went like, we really should have like a forum somewhere, because I feel like clients do at some level communicate to each other which agencies they can and can't work with for several reasons. But I feel like us as an industry, like I don't know how much communication there is within the industry, how we've got each other's backs. And that's something that I was very interested in.
Yeah. It's maybe, so I think, what would be the purpose of that, just to understand?
I think the purpose of it is, I'm not saying it's because anyone's got any malicious intentions, but just something as simple as, let's say, what I was saying is, it's obviously not on matters as small as the brief isn't clear. I think it's on a larger level. Like, there are a lot of issues that people have had working with certain clients, and it's not because the company as a whole, there's anything wrong with the company as a whole. I think it could just be, let's say, someone in the top level management that's either rooting to, let's say, hire in-house, or just, let's say, there's been some sort of fraudulent matter in terms of finances. And I feel like all of these matters, they are a lot more common than I think.
I feel the best way to ask is the previous agency who was working. And like you said, I think, it's not like it's not there. So many of the people in industry are connected and are friends. So like all the people who are running the right agencies, I'm good friends with all of them. So tomorrow, if I know that there's a client that, of course, their business is their business, my business is my business. We're competing for business, but we're also collaborating, and we've got each other's backs. Now we've made an equation. So, tomorrow, if there's something that you need to reach out saying, look, you used to work with this client sometime back, what was the, what was the scenario? So I would easily answer to you, and it would be like, okay, this is broadly the culture of this company and this is their approach. So it's also easy to try to understand, if you have intel on which agency they were working with, how long was the tenure. You ask the client also, who was your last agency? How long was the tenure? What was the problem? If you get that, you often get the answers that you need to.
How often do you teach your team something new?
I don't know. You'll have to ask my team. I don't think I teach. Maybe I'm not as good as teaching, training like that. But early on in the start of Schbang, there was a lot of like training sessions I would do, break it down, teach it. Now it's more about, less about teaching. Now it's more about like, here is where we need to go, with a little bit of nuggets of here's how we can do it. But it's not really hard skill training that I'm doing as much now.
Got it.
I'll do all this kind of time pass so that, if people listen, they get something out of it.
I'm glad you're calling this time pass. So what's the best way to recognize talent within your team?
First thing, I feel, it's a little controversial, but I think people don't complain too much. People who just, okay, fine, this is the job, here's how I'm going to get it done. Here's where I have a few challenges, can you help me do that? Rather than, oh, this client has this problem, this person in my team has this problem, this has this problem. That's bad talent. So I'll recognize what is bad talent. One is too much complaining. Second is unable to get along with other people in the team. So there was this good interview that Kunal Shah had with the founder of Nothing, and he said pro athletes working with pro athletes is like people at the top of their game, and collaborating and winning at the top of their game. That's what makes a good teammate. And that's what also makes a good person that you want to have in your team. So people who don't complain too much, people who are great at working with other good people. I would say that's the other thing. The third is really precise, which means you need to know the specifics. So I feel like today now, especially in the new world that we're evolving into, and kind of coming out of this world of, I think that attitude matters and, like, oh, it's about mindset and all. I think that's now a given. Now it's about how specific are you. So if there is a drop off in a funnel, then, where is exactly the drop off, where I diagnose, and then when I go into that. So it's more about people who know the details and also know how to navigate the details fast.
Got it.
So I would say these are the 3 broad skills. Of course, they've got to be generally liked by people. So usually people who are liked by people have people wanting to hover around them. Is a great example of somebody who can build a good team. Likeable people are always, good. But I think it's not just likable. It's got to be a combination of all this. You're likable, you don't complain, you're very specific about the skills, and it's when you're working with people, it's like pro athletes working with pro athletes. So I think these 4 things are what define good teams.
So what does a good handover look like? What are some key points to include in it? Because I have seen some shitty handovers in the last,
handovers from
years.
Teams into other teams?
Teams into other teams.
Teams into other teams and clients to agency?
I would say teams into other teams and client to agency. Client to agency, I've not seen very poor handovers.
So what we will do is we'll link in this podcast, we'll link our handover document.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we can just link that, and then that could be, I think that'll answer better than what I will answer here.
That's fair. I think that'll really help. True. Okay, this is actually a very interesting question that that I got, and to be honest, this is something that I've been asked this question a lot of times on Instagram. I've got people randomly messaging me, being like asking me the most random questions, but this is something that I get the most. How do you stop over delivering to clients?
How do you stop over delivering to clients? First thing I would say is when you're signing the client, you build a scope of work. So within the scope of work, you will say that these are the 5 people that will be assigned to your account, or these are the 10 people that will be assigned to your account. This is the amount of time they will spend, and this is the amount of deliverables they'll have. So your friend Suraj, he's leading our business development. So that's his main job, which is to really, at the start of the contract, define who's going to work on the contract, what their skills are, why they're good at what they do, is what we will convince them. And then those people can deliver this much, is what will be defined at the start of the contract. So that will be put into a scope of work, saying that, you'll get like 8 posts, or you'll get 12 posts, and you'll get so many banners, you'll get so many adapts. So that is agreed on a scope of work. And that scope of work is then put into a contract. And then that's the best way to do it, which is that you ring fence it at the start, and you're really putting mind to figuring out what should be done and what goes beyond. Of course, you may deliver 10 to 15% beyond, but then when you're, there's a very good saying, which is you can't manage what you don't measure. So then you're measuring what you are supposed to deliver, and when you're over delivering, you're telling the client, okay, I'm over delivering. So it's also then you are going extra out of your way.
Yeah. I think that communication with the client is also something that's very important, because I have my team coming up to me and being like, we've done a lot more than we were supposed to. I went like, number one, there was a time and place that had to be highlighted, and you did not. So I mean, that's something
you would
to remember
sign
for the
currently
future.
a scope of work with the deliverables?
Yes, we always do. I mean, since day one with every single client we have.
So then?
It's not my question.
Okay. No, but okay, fine. So if then, I'm just trying to think of like, okay, I guess, but if you have a scope of work, it most of the time solves it, right? Like,
yeah, it does.
If you have a scope of work and then you're measuring the scope of work, it solves it.
Yeah, but I think we still have faced this problem, not briefly, very briefly.
Yeah.
But there have been times.
I mean, if you're doing the scope of work, it solves the problem already.
It does, but I think there are some clients, especially because, like, to be honest, like I said, right, everything's coming through word of mouth. So let's say when we delivered well for one client, they give us another one. But in order to keep this client happy, sometimes you have to take that client at maybe 70% the value that you actually want to. Because you're just like, I'm doing it to make this client happy.
Yeah.
And when we did that, it didn't, let's say, turn out very well.
For the other one?
Huh? No, for let's say client A that we had, it went and it's going really well. But for client B, let's say, and this is a hypothetical situation, right? For client B, because client A has referred us to client B, we have to, let's say, we can't say no a lot. Even if, let's say, it goes beyond, just a little bit beyond the scope
Why
of
can't
work
you
and we
say
don't
no
have
a
the
lot?
bandwidth to, because again, you're trying to maintain relations that, like, I don't know how
that
to
is
exactly...
the thing which I feel like, that's where we get a little lost. You are not there to people please, you're there to do a good job. Which
Right.
is, again, I came back to the thing what we started this with, is that effectively we are trading human skill. And then your responsibilities to that business to deliver better, not to manage the emotions alone. Yes, managing emotions and managing relationships is a very strong part of it, but it's not the only thing.
Right.
So, and I think then also, everything has a price, everything has a cost input. And then within that cost input also, we have to be aware of how much efficiency we can bring to that cost input. So I think that, there could be tied up relationship, but also people don't keep talking to people, it's like just sit down saying, look, this is what I've signed up with you for. This is what you're going to. It's cool. I've done it so far. I'm not asking you anything, but going forward, it's going to be this way.
So this was actually a tricky situation. I don't think I should be explaining it on camera, but maybe after, I'll tell you about it after and I could get your input on it. What's the key difference between working with startups, SMEs, MNCs, all the different kinds of companies?
So this is a very interesting time for the agency business in India, because you have approximately every year, you have approximately 3 lakh new advertisers coming onto Google. So that means you have 3 lakh potential clients. Within those 3 lakh, you have about 6,000 of them who are high spenders. So you have 6,000 6,000 clients coming into the market every year. Now, out of that, if I take market share of a company like Schbang, we would be having 300 clients. So, we are less than 5% market share. So, this is not a one gorilla can serve everybody kind of market. There are a lot of players. Even 6,000 good clients in the country. And then there's the whole 2,94,000 of spenders, but not very large spenders. So there is a market for every kind of service. And I don't think that it's about the difference between startup, SME and large. I think you have to specialize yourself for a certain kind of clients. I think today, in my opinion, it is difficult to be able to serve a large company and a startup and an SME all in one framework. We try to do that, but we do different things for different people. So I'll give you an example. We work with lots of startups where we work with them on brand building and brand development. So we work on building their brand, we work on building their logo, their identity, their brand book. So we work with a lot of startups on that. We work with a lot of SMEs with our consulting practice and our research practice. So we work with a lot of SMEs to say, look, we will do a great market scenario for you. So we are effectively the marketing strategy partner and the CMO of sorts, the CMO for that period when they've hired us for a medium enterprise. And for a large enterprise, we are typically doing digital marketing, advertising, we're building a TVC, or we're building like a CRM. Actually, for the medium company also, we're building a CRM. We did a really good project for for an eye hospital, ASG Eye Hospitals. They had about 40 Google My Business, they have 40 centers across the country, and that 40 Google My Business locations across, each one getting different leads into 40 different email IDs. So, then the call center executives are opening 40 different email IDs, and then you're not able to measure who's efficient, who's not efficient.
Right.
So we rolled it up all into a single CRM. So you basically have all 40 Google My Business coming into the same place, is then auto traffic managing to different CRM executives. You're able to see who's able to respond fast, who's not responding fast. You're able to see who's closed most number of queries, which areas are more queries coming from. All that is manual work. So we do that tech kind of work for medium companies, also for large companies. Like we built the whole world of Hershey's you know, on their like the content portal for that. So I think it's about like being able to cater your strengths, what you can cater to each client at every different spectrum.
Got it.
So like, I mean, another business that we worked with, which is a small business, is a great company out of Pune called Autolog. So we basically help them really, you know, it's a mix of consulting and branding, because we help them really figure out that they should streamline they had two sources of revenue, and we doubled down on one source of revenue for them. And for that double down of one source of revenue, it was then linked to a new brand identity which was built, and then that was given to their partner network, etc. So, I mean, it's that kind of work that we do. Or like, there's a great research that we've done right now for, I would say it's still a startup. I mean, a well-funded startup, but still a startup, 82 Degrees, where, you know, there is Deepika's brand, where we've done a lot of research for them on what their consumers are thinking about the product and what are the areas that need specific improvement. So it's a very deep research gone on for about 60 days, where we've gone in very, very deep. So we do different pieces of work for different kind of companies. And I think, you know, because our Instagram and like Instagram is a visual medium, so you can put reels and you can put posts. So people think that we do that kind of work only, but there's a lot of different kind of deep work going on in different places. So I think it's about where you can add value.
So I'm a very strong believer in my in the fact that my client servicing team always works. They keep the client's best interest in mind. Like, they have to keep the client happy. But my content team will always put the client's audience first.
Yeah.
So especially when we're trying to explain, let's say, concepts to clients, we have to kind of explain to them how our team is essentially broken down also.
Yeah.
Which team do you see yourself spending most time with, and what do you think the divide is? Like, what do you think their priorities are? Is it the client? Is it the audience? Is it research?
Which team do I spend most time with?
Yeah. And the follow-up question.
Personally, I'm a bit more like a planner meets, you know, like I can understand clients' business fast, and I'm more like a planning person. And then a good planning person always supposed to give a lift off to a creative idea.
Yeah.
So that's the role that I see personally myself playing. And like you said, you know, there's different people who have different interests at heart. The creative and the design, you know, the art and copy teams, they are the teams I actually love working with them the most, because their focus is on really elevating the quality of the message. So they will ruthlessly fight for that. Whereas the brand solutions teams that we have are more about really understanding the task, understanding the client's business challenge, and the account planning teams are often tying in the challenge of the client, but also the realities of the market and the consumer. So those are the three right now that I see, especially with respect to creative delivery. Then with respect to tech also, it's a similar kind of framework, because the technology deployment teams are often, you know, they are really focused on what's the best possible tech solution, what's the lightest code that you can have, what's the right server to use. So that's that's those guys. Whereas again, you'll have the account planning team there, or account management team there rather, and there's the account planning, but the account management team will really focus on what is the specific problem that they're trying to solve within the client organization. You'll have less of market scenario on the tech side, because it's not communication. You're really about deploying the best and most efficient tech, unless it's a consumer facing portal. So there, then you'll again look at, you know, what's the market scenario and competitive benchmarking and things like that.
So we've got like 10 minutes left. I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions. Let this be like a rapid fire.
Super.
Okay. So how do you charge a national level client? Is it a lump sum based on solutions, or is it a retainer?
Honestly, it depends on the project that you've closed, because mostly a national level client, if you're a new player, will want to test you out. So it'll be on a project basis, and that project will be like a 3-month project, or I would advise typically take a 3-month project with a client, because in 1 month, it takes time to get to know people.
Yeah.
So 3-month project, where what you will do is you will put the cost of the people that you're putting on the project plus the overhead fee. So that'll give you your cost. You'll put your margin on that, and you'll put that as your fee.
Got it.
If the clients invited you for a retainer pitch and asked you for a cost of a retainer, obviously you'll put a retainer.
How important is it to have a lock-in period when signing, let's say, a long retainer with a client?
See, the industry standard, there is nothing called lock-in in this industry. It's typically a 1-year contract with a 1-month exit clause. So there's really no lock-in period. It's not like, real estate lease, because ultimately it's, it's you're working with skills. If the client's not satisfied with the skills or you're not satisfied with the client, both can leave.
Yeah, fair. How do you define?
And sorry, one more thing is the bigger companies typically, or the really, really large companies will typically create a only one-way exit clause, which means that only they can exit, but you can't. Yeah, which is also okay, I feel. I mean, because if you're working with a very large company, you work to oil into their system, so they don't want you to leave randomly.
Yeah.
They're protecting themselves, which is okay, fine.
Yeah, to be honest, that does cause the client more harm than it does to you if you were to leave.
Exactly.
Which is fair. How do you define and calculate the deliverables versus the commercials when you're pitching to someone?
What do you mean by that?
How much are you going to deliver for how much? How do you calculate that?
Okay, so you when you're scoping your project, first you will try to get a sense from the client, what is it that they've paid so far? What is their budget? So you'll get a sense of that.
Right.
So while that's one factor that you're putting, second is that you will also, basis a pitch that you will put a certain level of resources on it. So you'll put an account manager, you'll put a planner, you'll put a creative, you'll put a coder or an animator, depending on what the scope is. So you'll put all of that scope together, and then you will try to understand what is their capacity to deliver as a team together. So that will be your, deliverable output. So that you need to know what your people can deliver.
One other quick question, very quite in line with this. For me, when I initially started out, the first 2 years were profit.
Yeah.
After that, when not like we hit a loss, but when it was less profit and more profit again, I had to kind of start getting used to the curve shaking a little bit. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I have the same issue. Because after 7 years, this actually just the financial year that got done, I had a big nosedive in my margin. Now I fixed that, but that's a whole different episode once it's successful of how that was done. But I feel also what happens is that as you grow as an agency, there are first set of systems and processes for the first 10 people, then for 40 people, then 100 people, then 500 people, then 1,000 people. Your processes keep changing.
Right.
And over time, you get better at reducing variability. That's the goal. But I think when you're starting out, it is going to happen that you will have 3 years of good profitability. Then you'll have a dip. Why does that dip come? Because your salary costs will go high.
Yeah.
Why will your salary costs go high? Because you'll have people who will want to leave and say, you give me this, otherwise I will leave.
Yeah.
And you will be like, oh shit, I can't. But actually, then you will keep them also for 1 year, 1.5 years. Then the good ones will continue to stay with you, and some of the ones you've learned to make your business operate at that cost.
Yeah.
So then your pricing has gone higher because you have better talent. Then at that cost of talent, you can replace somebody also. If you don't want to, if that person who's asked you for the fee is not good enough, then you're in an open market. Then you will replace those people. But effectively, what that's done to your business is allowed your business to run at that cost level, because your costs will rise. You will try to increase your pricing, or you will reduce your cost. So it's a factor that you will do. You will either, or you will do actually a combination of both. You will, because price is not something that you can always control. Market defines the price. So you will try to increase your price, and but if there's a ceiling there, then you will try to bring more efficiencies. But there's bound to be a little bit of that. And I think the really good companies, like if you see companies like TCS, they are very predictable. So the hallmark of a great business is when you're predictable.
Right.
But it takes 7, 10, 12 years to get into that zone.
Yeah, and that too if you're good at it.
If you're good at it, yeah.
Okay, this is a long question, but we'll need a short answer. So what I have seen is when I was hit with attrition for the very first time, it came as a shock to me because I saw it coming. It was like a tsunami, but I didn't know how quickly it was going to hit me. So what I've seen a lot of people do is, let's say they start at like a base 30K salary. They're at company A. Within 6 months, they feel like they've learned everything they can from company A, move to company B for 35,000. Within 6 months again, 6 to 8 months, they move to company C for 40,000. Let's say within the next 3 years, they hit a 60K. I don't think you can gain as much expertise as you require or as much experience as you require. You can't take away enough from a company when you work with them only for 6 months, because you're just scratching the surface. So what happens when you, and I feel like this has been happening for a while, right? This is what I think to a very large extent, at least in my opinion, powered the Great Resignation. How do you kind of recognize that this person at 60,000 has basically half the skills, but a lot of the market that is asking for that price right now is just, they don't have as much experience. They don't have as much.
See, this is something we cannot control. Okay, honestly. What we can control is, I always advise this to people, if you're running a services business or any kind of business, the first hire you should make is human resources. So your human resources person needs to be really, really solid. And that means your recruitment will be solid and your exit process and entry process will be solid. So you can insulate against all this by having a strong human resources team. What happens in the market is not in your control. Now, when you ask this other point about the skills of somebody with 3 years experience demanding the certain price, the only way you can do it is have a very, very difficult entrance test or ability to get in. So you have to do two things. One is, as I said, you build a strong brand. So, and your strong brand will be built on the basis of the brands you manage, as well as the work that you do, as well as the culture that you have. So you focus on that. So people want to work for you. Not because it's an illusion, but it's actually good. And second is that you make it difficult for people to get in. And I'm shameless about that. People complain to me, oh, your test is too long. I was like, I'm okay with that, because then that helps me figure out the good ones from the not so good ones. And we like to make sure that only the good ones are getting in.
Yeah. So to be honest, just just randomly, I came across one of your tests on LinkedIn, and I went like, hey, maybe I should take this. Let's see if I pass. Like about 6 months ago, and I did. So that was great. That was a good, again, serves as validation.
Amazing.
What do you think the highest paying service in the digital marketing industry is?
I don't know if there's a particular highest paying service. It's honestly, it depends on the business. If the business is an e-commerce business, then the highest paying service will be more of this CRM meets marketing automation, meets banners, meets performance marketing bundled in to give a return. If it's a high awareness brand, then it's the creativity and the digital creative service which will pay you a premium. If it's a very like a very large company which just needs to bang out dumb creative, like one after the other, boom boom boom, you got to go. So that the ability to deliver that engine, that will give you a good good premium. I don't think there's a particular service which is like, oh, this pays way better than the others, because if there is a service with a much better margin, everybody will be providing that, and then it'll normalize. So I don't think there's any like one service.
So if you remember the last time I asked you about this as well, so Hitesh Rajwani, the founder of Social Samosa, I landed up meeting him at Goa Fest last year, and I was just getting some advice from him, and he was like, you have to figure out what your core competency as an agency is. What is that one service that you feel like you can provide better than your competitors? You bank on that.
Yeah.
So how do you, number one, figure that out, and number two, capitalize on it?
Yeah. So firstly, I think, two people you mentioned, Hitesh and Alina, and people like Social Samosa and Social Media Dissect, I feel like they're also doing a great service to the industry because of the work that they put together, where, this thing which you're talking about, transparency and people seeing work, it only happens at forums like the ones that they organize. So Hitesh particularly has been doing so much work for the industry. So I think he'd be a better person to answer this. So I'll tell you my perspective and then the how. Right. Our perspective at Schbang is we deliver the whole shebang, which is we try to deliver everything. And then we have two philosophies on that. Either we deliver everything or we deliver the parts to make you complete. That is the client complete. How you can identify what your strength is. And I think, typically if you're starting up, then it's often hinging on the founder. Like, what is the founder good at? Like, are you good at tech? Are you good at, are you good at delivering campaigns? Are you good at performance marketing? So always pick what you are really good at, because often you are the, it's almost like when you're starting up, it's like you're the general, but you're also in the battlefield and you're fighting.
Got it.
Whereas as you go bigger, you're the general in the middle of the battlefield, and you're kind of saying, okay, this is where you got to go. So it's kind of changes. At the start, it's often hinged on you, and then as you grow, you bring in people who are really good at different things, and then you marshal the troops that way. So that's the analogy I feel.
Got it. Okay.
And often what you're good at will come from results on work. Like for me, it came that, my Facebook ads management was very good because I delivered 6x better than the other guys. And I'm good at creative ideation and putting the tech together. So that was my good. Often the market will ratify it for you. Clients will ratify it for you. Oh, you're so much better at this. They'll double down on that.
Okay. What are your thoughts on getting started on a project before the MOU is signed?
I think it's a bad idea. I think you need to get into contractual discussion, or at least you sign a one-page MOU saying that there's a larger contract in place, and till then you will give me a purchase order. If you don't have a MOU, at least have a purchase order from a company which is stating that you will be paid. You
would be surprised. This question was the most common one out of, let's say, the 160
questions. So if I try to expand on that, MOUs can take time. Okay, now I understand where this question is coming from, because you've signed the client. The legal contract will take, its own sweet time, typically like 45 days to 60 days to get a legal contract signed, because your lawyer is there, their lawyer is there. Sometimes if you're a solo founder or like a small team, then you or yourself are the lawyer. So you also have to remove time for that. So it takes its time. So what you do is you tell a client that you give me a purchase order. A purchase order is a confirmation saying that I am making this purchase from you. So it's again like a zubadi from the client saying that I am going to work with you and I am going to pay you this much amount of money.
But to be honest, having made that mistake myself, I would say it's a fairly small cost to just get it done from a lawyer. You can have a lawyer that you work with on a freelance basis. And to be honest, now we have a team. But earlier when we did not, I realized that when I tried being the lawyer, let's just say it didn't turn out very well a couple of times. So I realized how important it is to just invest in that. Like you said, it's important to invest in human resources. This is also something that's legal, it's eventually going to help your business.
Legal, company secretary, you need a combination of that. And again, this is a good point, because as the founder, your focus, I think, is on growing the business.
For sure.
Because I always say this, that the answer to most problems is growth. So if you want, you have attrition, grow. If you have too many people quitting, grow. If you have not enough clients, just do great work and grow. So I know it's simple, but that's the only way out. And you as your founder will spend the maximum time and premium on only that. And the other thing that you need to do is, like, you need to be on top of legal, ring fence your company. So while you're growing as a founder, it's your responsibility to not make sure that there's nobody encroaching your borders. So that's where the legal part, the human resources part comes in, that you're working on policy and culture. So legal, BD, HR, finance, with BD being the number one, is the priority, I think, of the founder.
Agreed. The BD is the team even I work closest with. Always have. So this was again a question that multiple people asked. What would Harshil do if he was starting out today, if he was starting an agency today in a tier 2 town?
I would do two things. And there is actually one agency that I'm working with, and I kind of am guiding them a little bit. So I think it's exciting because you have a lot of, they're going to change their name, but Shivam and Aditi are running this agency, and they are working, so if you're working out of Raipur, Indore, or any of these places, Bhopal, where there's a lot of activity going on, and you have a lot of unorganized businesses becoming organized, or you have a lot of organized businesses now starting to focus on branding. So what I would really do is I would really focus on being the marketing strategy partner, which is that I would say, okay, look, this is how you can organize your team as you start to organize. Number one. Number two, this is what your brand should be built on and then stand for. So a lot of this define and organize who you are.
Right.
A. B is frame the marketing strategy and the marketing plan and the media plan.
Got
And
it.
then 3 is then offer the services that would be good to be delivered. That's what I would really focus on. The top line is that there's a lot of unorganized getting organized. So within that, be the partner that helps organize is the strongest partner I think would be there. And then there would be, then you would need performance marketing and media planning and creative and all of that, which will automatically come if you know how to organize it. And also I feel like right now also that's where it's interesting in India right now, because the skills that work in an organized market like Bombay, the same skills won't apply when a client is getting into organization mode. So it's a lot about curiosity, research, observing market scenario, planning the growth. It's a lot about that kind of stuff. So the skill set is different. It's not like, hey, let me deliver 50 creatives.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Strategy, I think, stands at the forefront of that.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a fun one. Let's keep it short. And
I'm going too long. Huh? I'm rambling a lot. Fine.
So you're going to be inspiring and talking to an entire generation of agency founders when you answer this. Define work-life balance as an agency founder.
Controversial question, but I'm here recording this with you on Saturday. I have a whole day of work planned. I'm running 2 companies. So for me, it's not, I feel like the things that I do with my work lead me to explore life. Since you asked me to keep it short, this is what I can say.
Fair.
Like if I had to just expand a bit on it, now as I'm expanding Schbang to different parts of the world, I would not have those opportunities if I wasn't, if I didn't have this team. And I wouldn't have this team if I didn't really over-deliver on certain projects. I wouldn't be able to over-deliver on certain projects if I didn't, really focus on building proactive work that people said, okay, there's some talent here, let's work with this talent. So I think it's all about stretching yourself a little bit extra at every point in time. And then, I think you have to work on yourself. 100% you have to work on yourself, which means that, the kind of lifestyle that you have, the kind of, the what you feed your body, what you feed your mind is very important. And I think also, like we spoke at the start, right, as when you're leading a lot of people, you got to be the best of the lot.
Yeah.
You have to be able to do that.
What's your hack though? Let's say when you reach burnout, how do you recognize that you're about to reach burnout and prevent it?
So there's a good reel I've done on the level page on that, which is the signs of burnout. But it's mostly when you're more irritable, when you're more angry, you know that you're nearing your burnout zone. When your body is extremely tired, you just can't get up. So then you have to disengage for like one day. I'd usually try to sleep it off. Sleep is always a good way to get over burnout, I feel. Personally, I spend a lot of time journaling my thoughts. Every morning I journal my thoughts. I prioritize my thoughts. I spend at least good 60-65 minutes with myself every morning, just me and paper writing. Then I have a daily meditation practice. I make sure that at least 2 times a month, I myself am in therapy. I am working out every single day. I love sweet food, but I try to avoid it. I make sure that my food is, according to Vedic rituals, as sattvic as possible. Get a good amount of sleep. Always feed your mind the right kind of stuff. I think also with what I'm doing now with the journey on Level Supermind is I get to meet a lot of really interesting people who talk about the science of the mind and how to further that. So that's where it's going. So I'm really enjoying what I'm doing right now.
That's really nice.
I think the antidote to burnout is to really enjoy what you're doing. And there's a friend of mine who, Christopher Engman, who said this line, which is that you kind of try to build a life that you don't need a holiday from. So most of us work with this, hey, I'm trying to work to get a holiday, but can my every day be the holiday.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more, because I think for the first year, I don't think I didn't stop working for 365 days.
Yeah.
But when I finally realized that wasn't entirely healthy, and I decided to overwork till I could take a vacation. So I went like, I have a vacation. I have like a 3-day break coming up in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm going to overwork till that point, and I know I'm going to like work excessively for the last 2 weeks, so that when I go, I come back fresh.
Yeah.
But now I've kind of started to realize the importance of a good night's sleep, the importance of just giving yourself, like you said, that time in the morning. Because I realized it was so important for me to just have at least an hour to myself in the morning, because that's the only time that my phone is not buzzing and my phone isn't, or my brain isn't entirely occupied with thoughts. So yeah, that's very true.
Try meditation on level Supermind.
Oh, I will. Now I will.
And I also feel like another good recharger is nature. So if you're burnt out and you are in nature for 3 days, chances are you'll come out very, very refreshed.
Is there an alternative to having an SLA between a client and an agency?
An alternative to an SLA? What do you mean?
Is there an alternative to having like a service agreement?
No. There is a service agreement. So you put the service agreement which has the cost, the scope, the deliveries, the exit clause, the indemnities, the reps and warranties, the non-solicitation. Ideally, I would say, in today's world, as you're growing as a business, try not to do non-competes. Because the client will say you don't work with a competitor, but you can always tell the client that, look, I will have a completely separate team working with your competitor if you that's anyway a standard practice. You can't have the same people working on a competing category. So a service agreement is the best way to do it right now.
How should you ideally charge a client that's looking for performance marketing? Is it going to be, again, the percentage that you charge on ad spend or on a commission basis?
So performance marketing, typically media has been charged on a on a percentage basis, typically, but sometimes you may have a client who's spending only 1 lakh rupees a month or like 2 lakh rupees a month. And on that, if you charge 5%, 10%, 7%, that's hardly 20,000 bucks. So if the time that you're putting in is worth more than 20,000 bucks, you basically work out what that time cost is. And then you say you can spend your 1 lakh or 2 lakh, that's up to you. But my fees are 75,000.
Fair.
So honestly, this whole business is a time-based business. It's about how much time you're putting in for the quality that you're delivering. And what puts you ahead of the game is how much more efficiency you can bring in that time that you spend. That's the fundamental of the business. So you can spend on commission basis, but if you have a client spending 2 crores and you're charging 4% commission, then that's a good fee. But you're going to put the same amount of time for a client spending 2 lakh. It's not going to work for you. So you can always put a fixed fee there. Normally then you can also put a fixed fee plus a variable on your ROAS targets hit, etc.
So when I started Scribbld in 2020, in the June of 2020, I started with no agency background. I started with a couple of marketing jobs in the bag, but I was working with a brand. So again, I knew what it was like to work with an agency, not at one. Again, what I thought was really difficult when I started is, number one, I had no connections. Number two, I didn't know where to hire from or how to hire. While I knew how to perform each and every one of these services, I didn't exactly know what it would come down to. I didn't know the factors that it would come down to when the client was making a decision between me and another agency. And obviously we used to work at really low price points then, but what I did realize that it did most times come down to price, the price that I was able to offer versus the price that they were able to offer.
Yeah.
At the time, I also had a lot of time to offer. Today, if you were to ask me, it's really difficult to, let's say, even Saturday morning. The reason I was saying let's start early is because the entire day post, this is like perpetually just going to be packed. If you're an agency founder, there's no, I don't think you can really distinguish between weekdays, weekends when there is important work coming in.
See, at least I feel the people listening to you, they'll have some empathy before bashing next time.
Yeah. Yes,
Let's hope so.
But
all of us,
honest, my team,
they'll bash less.
My team has been nothing but amazing.
Isko kuch aata nahi hai.
I doubt anyone, I hope no one on my team has said that, but they are amazing. They've been so nice. My team is my pride. But anyway, coming back to the question,
How do you start in today's competitive environment?
Yeah, I think because pricing is something that people usually...
Okay, so I would just break this down again. We often tend to get a little caught up in this whole, somebody's undercutting me, there is too much competition. Fine. First, let's acknowledge there's too much competition. I also acknowledge that I may not be the right qualified person to answer this, because I started when the competition was very, very less. I was in the first maybe 50 agencies of the country. In a city like Bombay, probably the first 25. So I took the early advantage on doing that. So I think there itself is an answer. You take the early advantage on what people are spending on. So, there are 2-3 ways to tackle this. One is, if you follow the fund flow on a platform like AngelList or something, where money is going, which categories money is going into. So let's say quick commerce is a category money is going into, and you're watching that on AngelList. You're going to see where money is going into international markets. Often, the money flows in India in the same way. So if you're seeing that money is flowing in this market, you start to prepare a specialization in this market. That's one way I would start. Be very, very clear that, look, money is flowing here, I'm going to be a specialist here. Because if you see money flow here 4 months previously in the US, chances are 4 months later in India it's going to follow the same way.
Very true.
So that's one way I would do it. Be a specialist in a niche where a lot of money is flowing. And effectively, that's what I did, because I put my focus in social media where a lot of money was flowing. So that's one. So here, now it may not be social media as a medium, but a category. So I would put a lot of disproportionate effort on a particular category. And the second thing is that if you are in a particular category, you make sure that you are significantly better than the others. The thing we often forget about marketing is that marketing is actually a growth driving investment. It's not a price cutting investment. Okay, so if you have that mindset that I will cut pricing, then you are doing marketing a disservice, not just yourself. Because why companies invest in marketing? They don't need to invest in marketing. You can always say, I will undercut price. If I'm selling a chocolate bar, I can say, Cadbury's 10 rupees pe milta hai, and I can sell for 7.5 rupees. But at the grocer, will you buy a Britannia biscuit, or will you buy an unknown brand? Because Britannia stands for trust, Britannia stands for quality, Britannia stands for all of these other wonderful things, which is why you're then investing in that particular brand. Effectively, a brand is a device to save the consumer's time. So if you can make sure that you are able to convince that particular company that what I will do will build the brand, then the person who's buying from you, think about yourself as a buyer, right? Like if you're going to buy if I'm going to buy Luna's chappals, or if I'm going to buy Bata, I will trust Luna because I know it has a reputation for standing for what I stand for, number one. Number two is that it is much more durable. It's communicated that to me. It is meant for walking trails, hiking. That's the life I want to live. So you have to understand your client also. What is the business your client is in? Why they're trying to build the brand? If you figure that out, and you figure that you're resonating at the same frequency in terms of their mindset, they will want to hire you over the other guy.
For sure. I agree, because I think it really comes down to what you're presenting to them, the ideas and the creativity and the execution that you're presenting to them when you pitch to them, right? And that's something for, again, this is for a lot of people starting out. What really I had to learn on the job. When I initially started learning that, I was like, okay, let's say if the price point is going to be something that's a matter of discussion or a point of, let's say, consideration, then I need to, number one, make sure that my pitch is great. After that, I realized that it's also very important that while your pitch is amazing, the way your BD team hands it over to, let's say, the team that's going to be taking over, that's also really important. So I think it was a step-by-step process when I learned. And what I found, I think, over time is that today, let's say, even if people have limited budgets, they will definitely want to invest in in good ideas. Number two, in trust. If they trust you, if they trust your ideas, and if you can actually show them proof, I think it's very underrated. Like today, when I speak to a client, let's say, obviously, barring the NDAs, I don't speak about any of that, but I do land up telling them a lot about what I have been or how I have been able to perform, or how we as a team have been able to perform for other clients.
Yeah.
So gaining that trust, I think one after the other is very important.
Yeah. And I think one of the other questions was, how do you pitch to a client without a portfolio?
Yeah.
So, and I think, in fact, so while you see the market being more competitive, the other advantage of the market today is a lot more mature also. And there are a lot more opportunities for you to create proactive work.
Very true.
So I feel today, the fact that you've got give or take, at least 15 lakh high quality influencers in the market today is an opportunity. So you can partner with influencers and create very visible proactive work that everybody is going to see. So if you have a very strong creative idea and then you called up Agastya Shah and said, Agastya, I have this idea, can we work together on this idea? And you pitch him the idea, and then that idea sees the light of day. And then a client would have obviously seen that idea already come to life. So that's your portfolio basically today. So I feel like there are a lot of opportunities to be able to build your own portfolio today because the market is more mature. And yes, while competition is good, I think it's a balance. When you have more competition, you also have more opportunities.
Yeah.
There is more competition because the market is that big.
Yeah.
There are different challenges at different times. So, this market has seen stages of maturity. We are seeing now, we are talking about CRM, we are talking about, like really deep tech going into, we are talking about companies that were traditionally advertising digital agencies now building tech products for clients. So I think it's a very interesting world that we're sitting in. And, and so obviously going to get more and more complex, and it's about how you can be at the top of your game. So that's the bit of it. But I hope it was useful. Thanks for putting so much together.
I also think, just to add to that once again, like you said, recognizing the industry is important, right?
Yeah.
When we started out, I realized that in 2020, the need of the hour, or what people cared about, are the industries that
help me
needed
survive.
us the most. Yeah. Like, to be honest, healthcare was something that we started, like I started my research about healthcare before I started my agency. Finance, because financial education at the time was booming.
Correct.
And number two, education in terms of ed tech, like, and upskilling.
Yeah. And those are the areas where money was going.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we focused on.
If you follow the funding patterns beforehand, you can get a one-up.
Very true. Very true. And to be honest, I don't think it's ever too late. Even if you feel like you're in the, kind of in the whirlpool, it's very easy to get into the mix. Yeah. You just have to know the right spots to hit. And it's about how many people you can get in touch with.
Yeah.
Then it's more quantity. I'm not saying you compromise.
So yeah,
on
exactly.
Quality,
if you're an edtech, then with the influencer, can you build a great edtech based campaign?
Exactly.
Or if you're in healthcare, can you work with a healthcare influencer and do something really cool? Like we are doing something now with one of the influencers where we're doing a campaign around public littering. So it's going to be an interesting. Or we did one with Mumbai Police for Dussehra, where we had a 10-headed Ravan riding a bike across the city, and then you're like, the Ravan is asking the guy who's not wearing the helmet, mere to 10 hai, tere kitne? So that, again, and we convinced Mumbai Police to put that out.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have some extra connections or something. I know the commissioner, none of that stuff. We just went through the local police station, pitched it to the local police station. Local police station then said, go to this in the central office. Central office said, pitch to this guy. This guy said, come and pitch with me to my boss. So it's the, it's like wherever you are. I think connections are overrated, to be honest, in today's world at least. So yeah, and it's easy to connect with anybody today.
For sure.
So that's what it is. I hope this is useful to the people watching, and I think thanks for all your perspectives in the middle of it, because it's good because you're adding both the perspectives.
Yeah.
And thanks for putting this together.
Thanks, Harshil.
Thank you.